Are we not going to say anything this morning, David? Good morning,
I'm
David.
trying to become a guru. That means I have to listen.
Oh, God help
How,
us.
how am I doing? How am I doing so far?
You're doing outstanding, Guru. Absolutely. So, good morning, David. It's good to see you, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So I'm David Hanscom, and you are, who are you?
I'm Les Aria.
Right. And see, I'm trying to find out from Les who I actually am. So my name is David Hanscom. I'm trying to find out who I am, which goes into our topic today about how your identity often or usually becomes a burden. And you go, why is that? But I'll never forget at one point in my life, I was skiing in Utah on 2 feet of powder. I was with my 10-year-old son. I had a nice practice, nice house, nice wife, and I was completely, absolutely, totally miserable. And what happened, I get to the point where I was quote successful. I had everything I needed, and my anxiety got worse. And so you've heard the term imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Many highly successful people feel like that they don't deserve it, and they are imposters. And the more successful they get, the louder that voice becomes. Now, that's really nasty. I worked really hard to get where I was supposed to be, what the world told me I was supposed to have to get happy, and I was completely miserable. So I'm going to ask my guru, Dr. Arya, Les, why did that happen to me?
Oh, David, we don't have enough time this morning. Shall we move on? No, on a serious note, from a therapeutic perspective, I can take different angles. And so in my training, I use acceptance and commitment therapy. And one of the ways we teach this is there are different parts of your mind. And there's the part that thinks, that we can hear the thoughts. There's a part that observes, that's the middle. So think of a triangle. The top of the triangle, the pinnacle of it is basically we can hear thoughts. And then right in the middle is the part that we train in acceptance commitment therapy to be able to observe the thinking. It's called, the observing self. And then the last part where this comes from is called the conceptualized self. It's the image that and messages we receive when we're growing up. I call it parental injunctions, messages received. Other therapists, psychologists call it old programming messages. Be a good boy. A happy person is someone who's successful. We get these messages, and your message that you received is to be happy somehow in a variety of ways. To be happy, you have to be a physician, and in fact, on top of that, a surgeon, right? So that's the pinnacle. Dave, do you like that the way I did it? so that, David, that sometimes we pursue that, and when we get to the place that we thought we'd be happy, we realize we're still unfulfilled because these are old programming messages, and it feels like an endless road. And so we look for happiness in material and degrees and fancy ego titles, things like that. There's nothing wrong with that. So if anyone's listening who's a doctor or even a therapist, we're not saying it's something bad, but the reality is, it's from what you're saying, it creates some sense of suffering when you realize happiness wasn't in there.
Well, I mean, the programming comes from everywhere. I mean, you have your parents telling you to be able to be that all that you could be. The Army's telling you that. Society's telling you that. The marketing people keep saying, well, there's something wrong with you and we can fix it with this. So there's this endless quest to be better than you are right this second. And there's no end to it. So then you have this identity, which is really your signature part of who you are. You get very good at it. And that noise gets worse because you get there by being self-critical. That voice is not going to just turn off. And so what happens, you have your conscious effort to become better. Then you have your unconscious brain, again, correct me if I'm wrong in this, you have your conscious brain looking out for danger, finding ways that you might not be good enough. So inadvertently, you are that's what you call the protector, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, remember, David, so there's a part of us that we can hear and saying, we're looking out for danger, like, oh, that person just frowned. Let me change the way I deal with things. But there's also another part that's programmed outside. And I think Stephen Porges calls this the neuroception. Is when your unconscious, the most primitive parts of your brain, are constantly scanning what's outside, inside, and what's in between you, if it's dangerous, safe or not.
I wrote a website post called Your Personal Brain Scanner. And so when things are good, your brain's scanning the environment for danger.
Yep.
Remember, your body's first goal, not your mind, but your body, which includes your mind, your goal is to survive. Your brain is always looking out for danger. Yep. Now, we also look to gravitate towards safety, but you have to avoid the danger first. So they're both important, but your brain's always looking out for danger. Even when things are going well is when it really looks out for danger, because I got here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to really protect this. I'm going to really hold on to these gains that I made. And so again, anxiety just means an activated nervous system. It's the cause of a threat, it's the result of a threat, not the cause.
Mm-hmm.
And so we still put anxiety in the psychological construct, and it's just a word. It's an activated nervous system that doesn't feel very good.
Yeah.
So we have all this other, the mental part of it is critical. We can call that the psyche, but the actual feeling we get of uneasiness is an activated nervous system.
Yeah, and we've talked about this in previous videos here, that when you're feeling safe, sometimes, the whole body knows that and your mind knows that. What you're talking about is sometimes when we achieve. Now, for those who suffer with chronic pain or anxiety or depression, you might have a decent day. I was talking to a couple of patients yesterday, and my patient said, I'm doing pretty well, but I'm wondering whether I'm going to have a flare up today. I'm feeling less anxious, but I wonder whether, this is just a passing phase. So it's almost like when things are going well, the most primitive evolutionary part of our brain says, yes, but it's the YB syndrome. And so it's not only instinctual, but it's programmed. And what we're trying to tell people is pay attention to that inner voice that shows up, because we might be over identifying with it. And we need to have a set of skills to be able to kind of separate from them.
So I just had a random thought. This is
boy, here we go.
So
David, we're live, right?
Wife, in an effort to salvage me, sent me to stand-up comedy class.
They don't know that.
Which I failed it. I failed. So I didn't do it.
You don't fail comedy class, David.
I was trying to be a smart ass, and that doesn't work in stand-up comedy. So when you say yes, but, it just triggered me, because in comedy it's yes and. In other words, it's all about the other person, not about me, right?
Yes.
Which is a novel thought.
I like that. By the way, David, just to let you know, comedy school was acceptance and commitment therapy, because in acceptance and commitment therapy, known as ACT, we say the problem and I'm having a difficult time and I have choice.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So I guess I was taking comedy classes.
That's interesting, because the problem is, you just said yes, but is the problem with the self-critical voice, right?
Yes.
And so we also think that play is a big factor in healing. So let's get into the yes and mode.
Wow. That was a mic drop. Did you just say something like so powerful? It's a yes and. Is that the intervention for today?
Yes.
There we go.
So well, two things. We talked about this beforehand, and I asked Dr. Ari to help me out today. He would not give me a solution. So I'm on my own today.
David, you gave yourself the solution.
David, so my solution is a little simplistic. So what you want today is just practice awareness.
Yeah.
Just watch how futile, first of all, become aware how much your identity means to you and how attached you are to it. So that's another story about shedding me. I spent my whole life becoming a high-level surgeon. I had to shed that identity in order to get connected to life. This is not a small task, by the way. So just the first step is to become aware how attached you are to whatever identity you have. And that awareness actually is a big part of the solution. And then engage with life. So beautiful. Yes, I'm attached and I want to go this way. So that's our thought for the day.
Wow. And David, that was on a serious note, and I tease you a lot, and so do you tease me. But what you said was really powerful, is whatever the problem is, to the end, you have choice to go about life, because you don't have to believe anything that's said on the inside. You are still navigating your life. If this is a ship, you're navigating and steering it where you wish to go. The second thing I wanted to mention, David, seriously, on a serious note, that was fantastic. I'll tease you offline. And so I'd like the audience to know, if you're interested in a book, I like to make book recommendations, is that a great book is called Conquering Your Inner Critic Voice. Conquering Your Inner Critic Voice by Robert Firestone. Check that out.
Okay, I'll put it on the show notes. Can you text that to me, Les, and I'll put it on the show notes today.
I'll be happy to text you love notes and that you're good and you're worthy. Yes.
Great. It's going to make everything worse.
Come on,
So
David.
this is why this is called dynamic healing moments, because in stand-up comedy, by the way, if it's about you, you lose. If you're making the other person look better, everybody wins. So it's a very dynamic process. That's why we call this dynamic healing, because we're looking at your circumstances, your nervous system, and what happens at the end of the day.
Yep.
So it's dynamic and we're excited about it. So we hope you have a great day. And this is David Hanscom and Les Aria, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Have a great day, everyone.